I built 3 companies to over $1 million a year, and my AI company now makes $200,000 a year. And this last one is built on prompts. I have prompts and I sell them. I give some trainings to clients on how to create useful prompts. And I'm going to give you 2 mental models today that you can take so that you can also create prompts that make you money. Because I'm on a mission to get 10,000 people to make money from their prompts. So here you go. Now, why do we use prompts plural and not prompts singular? Wouldn't it be just easy to put everything into one prompt, like all your transcripts and all your recordings, and then say, hey, consult like me and use my own voice? And that's what I wanted to do. But I'm going to give you 3 reasons why that's a terrible idea and why I think you shouldn't do that, because then it's not going to be as good of a prompt as it could be. So the first one is context window. So think of it as mental capacity of the AI. And every chat has a specific content window. Now, you've probably noticed that the more you talk to an AI, the dumber it gets, at least on the same chat. It starts hallucinating or just forgetting facts. And that is a pretty good indication that you've gone above that context window. So it gets dumb. Now you increase the usage of that context window by 2 things, by talking to it, but also the material that it is trained on. Now, if you feed it everything, you've almost filled your entire context window. And so the prompt will just not be useful to your people. 2, user experience. The goal is to create prompts that make you money. And if we only have one general one, that tends to be harder to sell because it doesn't create as much of a good customer experience. So once you have your prompts, you want to have, as a fitness coach, for example, general consulting prompt. Fitness, training, habits, sleep, diet prompts. It is just easier for you to position as valuable once you have multiple of those kind of prompts, if you will. I call them Cashie. So for the rest of the video, I'm just going to call it Cashies. But Cashies is like a GPT or a chatbot. And a third thing is sales. If you only have one main thing, then you kind of just emptied everything that you could sell around that thing, right? It's not like you can launch anything else. It's like you copied your brain, or the audience sees that you copied your brain, and that's it. But if you have multiple, then you can keep adding them. So then you add a supplement stack, and then you add a no workout plan Cashie. And so it is more useful for somebody. The perceived value is higher. And so it makes a lot more sense to them. That's why you don't want one mega prompt. You want multiple so that it'll be able to do the job better than if you just had one. In AI, sometimes more is not better. Having the specific amount of instructions, that's better. It's like eating. So if you eat too much, then you're bloated, you're kind of slow. But if you give it just enough, you have energy, you can keep going. Think of AI kind of like the same thing. Now, I said that I was going to give you 2 mental models that you can take at the beginning of this video, and here it goes. You want to start with two really good prompts, and each mental model is for each one. It is the hot one and it is the habit one. So what's the hot one? Right now, you have people in your niche, maybe they ask you or somebody else, that you know they're selling something that just sells. In my example, I'm in coaching and consulting for business related things. Everybody in my world is obsessed with getting leads and an offer. And so I could take the position of, I don't want to sell that because everybody else is selling it. Or you could look at it like the way e-com people look at products, which is, it's selling, why am I not selling it? So think of what is already selling. What is a hot one? So what is something that maybe you may not think that is the main thing people need, but that is what they want. And so sell that. You can then provide what they need later. But for now, don't overthink it. What are people obsessed about in your niche? And then putting it in a Cashie, in a GPT, then that will allow you to capture part of that demand. So think of it as the hot one. And then there's a habit one, which is something that will help an action that people do constantly. So again, in my world, that's something like posting. So in my AI app, I have an offer Cashie. I have content creation Cashie. And people may come for the offer Cashie, but they stay for the habit one. They come for the hot one and they stay for the habit one. So for you, think, what is something that people will do with me or without me anyway, every day? And that is what you create a Cashie around. So for fitness, it might be accountability. For relationships, it might be simulation of a Tinder conversation. Or for business, it might be content. What is something that people do all the time that you can facilitate? And that is a key for a product. You don't really want a product that will change somebody's behaviors. People rarely change their behaviors. Think of a better, easier, different, less expensive, less complicated way so that people can get to their destination. And so those 2 mental models will help you figure out which Cashies you should be thinking about creating. Now I'm going to show you how you should think about creating these. And this one comes from the best advice I ever got when it came to programming from college, because I did software engineering before I dropped out, but I did do some software engineering. And the best advice the teacher ever gave me in software engineering, this is something you don't need an education to get. It's just very useful. The problem is solved first with pen and paper. Once you've solved the problem in pen and paper, then you can use your keyboard. And I find that very helpful even today in business. business, in all of the businesses that I've built, if I spend 5 minutes planning what the solution should be, then by the time I touch the laptop, I'm much more productive. Same thing with prompts. If you can figure out the problem through the questions that I'll give you, then you'll be able to create a much better prompt because you've already planned it. All you have to do is kind of execute it. I used to train volleyball back in my country in Guatemala, and my trainer had a really good quote. He said, "Medals are won in training. Tournaments are just where you go pick them up." And it is very similar. The money is made in the planning. The laptop is just where you go and pick it up. So the first question you should ask yourself when creating a useful Cashie is, what do I want my Cashie to output? The output that your Cashie gets is 90% of the value that people will get from it. You can then put it in other software that will make it look pretty. Everything you do with AI will look pretty because AI allows you to have design skills that you probably don't have right now, but it allows you to like show some design skills. The value is in the prompt and making it actually output something interesting. I have 3 mental models when it comes to what Cashie do I want to create. The first one, does this change their behavior? The second one, does this give them an asset? And the third one is, does this give them an answer that they seek? And these are simple questions, but they do end up in better Cashies because what you don't want, this is the thing that you do not want to happen when you create a Cashie and you give it to somebody. The reaction that you do not want is for them to go, "That's pretty cool. That was nice." That's what you don't want to happen, because if that happens, that is them saying, in other words, "This is not useful, but I want to be nice to you." That's what they're saying when they say, "This is pretty cool." But if you give them, again, so the mental model of, does it change their behavior? Does it give them an asset? Does it give them an answer that they seek? You will probably get a different response. And the response you're looking for is, let me try this. But you want to change their behavior, give them something that they can use. So I like making these videos actionable. So right now you think, which one of these sounds more like the easier one to build for you right now? And there's no right answer. Does it feel easier for you to build a hot Cashie because you answer that question of, in this niche, everybody wants this? Or a habit Cashie that is something you feel that you could help them in an action that they do multiple times? For now, we're going to go through an example and I'll walk you through all the questions that you can use to create your Cashie at the end of this video. I'm going to go with a hot Cashie in the fitness niche. Second question to ask yourself is, what data do I need from the user? When you sell Cashies, you're not selling info products. It's not information, because information is not personalized to the user. It's just text that you cannot change. But a GPT changes that, which means that your leverage is multiplied, because if you make one prompt and 100 messages a day run through that prompt, you're helping that person 100 times a day. It's a big deal. Whereas if you gave them a course, a workshop, a product, a PDF, it's only once. So this gives you a lot more leverage. And that is achieved through personalization, because a GPT can personalize things for you. And in order to do that, you need to answer yourself, again, pen and paper, and then you go to the laptop. But you need to ask yourself, what do I need from them to get something to them? So in the fitness example, I might need, what is their goal? What is their training frequency? Do they have a gym? What are their diet habits? What is their available equipment? Do they work a desk job? So for you, think, in order to get that result for my Cashie, what do I need from the user so that I can personalize the middle ground, the bridge to there? So then ask yourself that. Third, and this is when you have to develop a little bit of future vision. So what questions can I put inside of my Cashie to facilitate the experience? A lot of your clients, if you have clients, they don't ask you questions not because they're completely clear on what they should do. They don't ask you questions because they don't know what to ask. That's just how it is. But with AI, it's different because you can prompt it so that when people begin a conversation, it has like 3 standalone questions and they can just click and it gets sent. It facilitates the conversation. Instead of them having to come up with something to start and talk to the AI with, you can just give it something, just click here and it will talk. So for example, I have my virtual JK, which is the Cashie that is a replica of me. And I have 4 questions that are useful to the people who use it. Number 1, I don't have a specific question. Can I just brain dump here and you help me make sense of my ideas? 2, I need a 6-week plan. 3, I don't know what to focus on today. And 4, I'd like feedback on my offer or my content. So these came from questions that people would ask me, and people ask you questions. And if they don't ask you, you see other people asking other people questions. So you can get ahead of it and think, what are the things that people are most likely to ask my Cashie? And so you just put them there. You just make it as a way to start a conversation that is easier. 4, have AI write the prompt that you will use to create the AI. It's very meta, but these machines know how to talk to each other. So you will notice that when you ask AI to give you a prompt that then you paste into another chat, their outputs are usually not bad. And it's because these machines, they know how to communicate. And so you can use AI as in, I want this end output. I want people to use it daily. I have these conversations. I have these 4 actions that people usually take in the beginning. Can you help me create a prompt? So you can do that. Right now I'm developing one. It's very meta, but it's called the Cashie creating Cashie. That is a Cashie that creates caches. It's in the name, right? But I'm creating it. It's in the newsletter. Eventually I'm going to drop it, but you can find it in the newsletter at likes-ain't-cash.com. But if you don't have that, or if I haven't released it, it'll be free. But if I haven't released it, then, well, you can use AI to help you create the prompt for the AI. 4, determine your knowledge files. So when you create a Cashie or a prompt, you will find that you have 2 fields. The first one is the actual instructions. That's what you get from the AI telling you these are the instructions. That's like actual text. It's something you write. And the second one are the knowledge files, which are, well, knowledge files that you upload. Now, the right way to think about these is to think of it as if you were IKEA. So once you buy something from IKEA, it comes with a manual. And the manual has 2 sections. It has the instructions and it has what each part is. So an example, the instructions is you put part A with part B together with bolt number 8. So those are the instructions. They're not very useful to you if they don't have part 2, which is what do these parts mean? And part 2 is when it tells you part A is actually the seat, part B are the legs, and then bolt number 8 is the short one. And now you know, okay, I know what to do. And then you know what to do. Cashies work in a similar way. They need the instructions where you tell them, for example, in the fitness example, if somebody meets this condition, recommend plan A. If somebody meets that condition, recommend plan B. Now the AI doesn't know what plan A and plan B stand for unless you add knowledge files, which is probably a PDF, where you say plan A means this 3 times a week, 500 calories deficit. Plan B means that 5 times a week, 1000 calories deficit. And so once you think of your prompting skills kind of like IKEA, you will find that you can create much better prompts because you're not bloating the context window, because you're very direct. Like the manuals are not that long. It's like a few pages long. And think of your Cashie the same way. You want it to be short enough to create an output, but long enough so that it'll create the right output. But the belief that more is better is just not true when you're creating Cashies. And if you mix those, the problem is the AI will start acting pretty dumb. It'll start hallucinating, and that's not what we want. Next, what AI do I use? Because there's several. There's ChatGPT, that's the most famous one. There's Gemini, that's the one from Google, and then there's Claude. So you got to think, what provider do I use? And again, this has 2 parts. It's the provider and it's the model. So if you've ever logged on into ChatGPT, you're using the ChatGPT provider. But there's a selector in the text box where you can choose, do I want the fast one or the thinking one? And that is the model. And you have to find which combination of these, which model and which provider allows you to get the best results. Now I'm going to give you what I think each one is better for. So I use Gemini personally for writing. This is surprising, but Gemini actually has pretty good writing. The 3.1 Pro model has really good writing. And if you're confused by the words I'm using, this is not hard. You just go to Gemini and then you go to the selector and you choose 3.1 Pro. Like I'm just using terms that sound complicated, but that's just because there's no other name to use them. If you will, this is like the equivalent of going to ChatGPT and clicking on thinking. But Gemini, I use it for writing and also for looking up things, because Gemini is developed by Google. And so it has access to all the internet, because Google is basically the internet. And so it can research really well. Claude is great at human touch. When you talk to Claude, you feel understood. It's like a friend. He gets you. So it's really good for consulting Cashies or things that require a more personal touch. And ChatGPT, this is my belief, but I don't know if you've ever tried writing copy with ChatGPT or coming up with a useful answer to a complicated problem with ChatGPT, but it's just not that good. So unless you have a specific reason for it, I don't really use it. And this requires a lot of testing, because you got to find out which of the models and which of the providers give you the best combination of the output that you want from your Cashie. But I'll give you one tip that I used to test it so that you won't have to do it manually. Because the way I used to test it was I would paste the prompt and then kind of role play as a user. But that took me like an hour to do like a couple of conversations, and it just was not efficient. Turns out AI is very advanced. And if you think a little bit meta, you can ask AI to role play conversations with itself. So this is what I tell AI. I'm going to paste a prompt and I want you to role play a conversation. These are the situations my clients are in, A, B, and C. So in fitness, for example, it would be this dude that has no time, this guy that is obsessed with fitness, and this guy that is just kind of a beginner. And these are the attitudes that they sometimes have. I want you to act like a snappy person that has very little patience and is kind of a pain to deal with. Somebody who's very logical and analytical and kind of skeptical, and somebody who's clueless and has no idea what's going on. When you're done, show me the conversations to analyze and suggest tweaks to the prompt for me to approve. We'll do this step by step, but at the end of the session, I want to leave with a new prompt that I can test again until I think it returns something acceptable. And then you paste your prompt. And so that will give you 9 simulated conversations, and you can see this went in a direction that I didn't want, or I didn't think of this edge case, or this person didn't get the end result. Maybe the part where I thought of what data do I need from a user wasn't robust enough. Maybe I can ask it to ask for more things so that it'll give a better outcome output. And it allows you to create some really good stuff. And so you allow AI to test with itself instead of you having to do it. And eventually you're going to come up with a pretty good prompt. It's something that you've thought through. You created the plan in pen and paper, then you touched the laptop, and it worked out pretty well. So what do you do now? Now, I wanted to put stuff into ChatGPT, as in you can create a GPT and you can share a link. But the problem is it is very, very hard to build a business around that because of one feature that is missing. And I hated this. It's that if I give away the link, it's done. I cannot gate it. I cannot revoke access to it. And I therefore cannot charge in a recurring basis for it. So I can't really form a membership or recurring revenue from it. And I hated it. That's what I didn't want to do. So I created an app that does. And so the app is free. I haven't released it, or maybe at the time of this video, it will be released, but I haven't released it. It'll be free so that then you can put your prompts. There's a Cashie creating Cashie inside, or there will be, so that it'll create these for you. And I'm uploading it to the newsletter when it's done. It's not ready yet, but I'm going to show you a little bit of it if you're interested. So this is Meta Cashie. It's where you create your Cashies. So I would create something like the road to a six-pack. And then I can go here and create my tool. So we just talked about creating the tool. So it would be something about the workout builder. This is where I paste my prompt, as in you put part A with part B with bolt number 1. This is where I add my knowledge files, as in part A means this, part B means that. And I can create quick actions. This is what I told you about. You got to think about what energy do my clients come with when they talk to this. So an example of one that we can put in here is, I'm a beginner to training and I need help. And so we add that. So then people can just click it and then it'll send that to the AI. Or another one. I'm advanced, but I'm stalled in my progress. And that's another one, right? So when people click on that, then it gets auto-sent to the AI and they can talk to it. Here, you can choose your model. So we talked about which ones are the best. For me, because this requires more of a personal touch, I would go with Claude and I would go with Sonnet. I typically choose Claude Sonnet because it's in that middle ground, which is not that slow, but it's also not that dumb. So I kind of like that. And so I would create my Cashie. Now, I just kept doing this multiple times, and I'll show you what my app looks like right now. And once I've created my Cashies, this is the app that makes 200 grand a year. This is what we come up with. So I've got Offer Cashie, builds offers, Well-Made Cashie that writes content, and so on. And so I have this stuff here, and I can build a business off this. Now, I'm not confident enough yet that I can give you this so that you can create yours, because right now I'm fixing books. But this is something that I will release and I'm really excited about. So when it comes out, if you're in the newsletter at likesaintcash.com, you'll know. See ya.